The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So welcome to everybody coming online right now for our first Ask the Expert webinar of the Power Up competition season. Today's one will be pretty much like all the webinars. They're about half an hour long. There'll be a chance to ask questions. At every webinar, we're going to give away some prizes. I'm going to ask you to do something to get a prize. We would ask that if you do have any questions that you type them into the question box, and we'll get to them when we can as we go along. If you have not been muted by me, can you please mute yourself if we need you to start to talk because your question is a little bit more detailed than we can explain. We'll unmute you at that point. All these Ask the Expert webinars will be recorded and put on the First Canada YouTube channel, and we'll include any documents that go along with those. In fact, there are 2 documents today from Alexandra Hahn of 771 in the SWATposium. So without further ado, we're going to get started. So we have 3 guests. We have Heather Young from Team 2056 in Stony Creek, OP Robotics, and we have Sarah Sils, a mentor from Team 771 in Oakville, St. Mildred's Lightbourne, and we also have Alex Hahn, who is a team member of 771. Now, we were going to start with Heather, but I see Heather's microphone's not come online, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at what we're going to do. Hopefully she'll come along, and then if not, then we'll start with Ms. Sils and Alex. So our experts today, as you can see, Heather Young, Sarah Sils, Alexandra Hahn, and the 2 topics that we want to talk about for the most part are the 2 conferences, one that's already taken place, the 2056 Ways to Inspire that was put on at Orchard Park School in Stony Creek by Team 2056, and at which Heather presented, and the SWATposium, which is put on by St. Mildred's Lightbourne, and it's going to be coming up not this weekend, but the weekend after, which would be Saturday, November 4th at the school in Oakville. So as we still see there are issues with Heather's microphone, we're going to give a start to Team 771 and Sarah and Alex. So Sarah, maybe you could start us off by explaining a little bit of history of the SWATposium.
I guess when we were thinking about, how we could improve our experience in the first program, we were thinking there's so many teams out there that have a wealth of knowledge, and wouldn't it be great if we could get together and share that knowledge between each other to advance all the teams attending? So we thought, well, in the business world, they run like a conference or a symposium. So maybe that's what we should do. We should run a symposium. But then we've had to, add our name in there somewhere, so it became a SWATposium. And yeah, so we reached out to a number of teams and asked, would you be willing to come and present at SWATposium? And our first person to respond back was 1114. So that was a great start for to kickstart it all going. And so between us, we set up about 20 conferences that first year, 20 workshops, and an opening and closing speaker. And that's how we began. It was 7 years ago. And then if we...
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to ask you how it has changed over those 7 years. How is it any different? Because First Canada is so much bigger than it used to be, for example.
Exactly right. So it has been growing over the years. So now we're over 30 workshops and more than 30 teams will come. We now have a couple of teams that come from the US. Kinetic Knights used to be our farthest team, so they've been coming since the beginning. And we've last year we included Quick Build. A few years before that, we included some FLL workshops. We included some fun factors, so we've amped the games lately. The photo booth last year was a big success. So just kind of looking at ways to improve it. We're encouraging all the presenters to include hands-on components and interactive aspects because the feedback we're getting from attendees is that's what really makes them more memorable and they can learn better.
Well, I know I've been there a few times when I can make it, and it's been a lot of fun. So I remember the year Tom Lee did the closing speech and had duct taped all sorts of hex keys to the bottom of the chairs, and they were falling during the course of his presentation. So there's lots of fun stuff outside of the sessions that are fun. And Tom, as you know, is a great speaker. Is great to listen to.
Right.
So maybe Alex, you can tell us, since you're heavily involved with it, I guess you're getting all the emails from people wanting to go. What's going to happen this year?
So this year's SWATposium is held on November 4th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at St. Mildred Whitburn School, as previously mentioned. We're going to start off the day with our morning speaker, Elliot Cosehill, who is one of our mentors. And throughout the day, there are a total of 36 FRC workshops and 6 FLL workshops presented by teams across Ontario, and we do have a few teams from the US coming up to present as well. The topics of these workshops touch on the different aspects of FRC and FIRST, so from mechanical to team management and business and media. And we do also have a few workshops that are held by external companies and universities such as SHAD and UFT. There are also going to be games to participate in that will be run during the day, and we'll have an industry speaker finish the day, followed by annual SWATposium cake. And registration for SWATposium is already out on our website, Facebook, and Twitter, and we highly recommend signing up now as the workshops do fill up fast.
Right, and in the handouts tab on the control panel on the right-hand side of the screen, everybody will find 2 of the handouts that list all the sessions at the SWATposium for the FLL and for the FRC. Now, I see one of them is color-coded. Alex, what's that all about?
So we color code the subjects for the FRC workshops because there's so many of them, and and by color coding them, we allow the attendees to kind of figure out a path of where they can go to and figure out what workshops might interest them the most. Of course, they don't have to stick to a certain color or anything like that. It's just the ones that we recommend for people who are interested in certain topics to go to.
Okay, so
do you
here.
want to give an example?
For example, like rookie is a purple color, and if you scroll down, there are a couple workshops throughout the day that are highlighted in purple that that kind of dictates which ones are probably a little bit better for any like rookie teams to even rookies themselves to go and participate in and learn more about FRC.
So what is the quick build then that Mr. Chisholm is heading, I think?
So quick build was something new that we introduced last year, and it allows rookie teams to come in and actually do kind of like a quick build of a kit of parts in one day and be able to try it out before build season. So they're able to work with their team and build one together from the mechanical aspect to wiring it and programming it, and they get to drive it around at the end of the day.
So I know we had last year, you say it was the first one, and we've talked for years on different teams about how the quick build on January the 6th is great, but wouldn't it be great if we could have teams that are rookies touching a robot and putting it together and wiring it in the fall? And I know the teams that went there really appreciate it. 6131 was one of the 6331 was one, and they had a great season based on some of the experiences they got there. That's for sure. So it sounds like there's a lot going on. Go ahead.
The idea with the quick build is then you would not register for workshops because you'll be busy building a robot during the day. So they wouldn't sign up to the regular workshops. They would be in a separate area building. They still come to the opening ceremony, shall we say, the opening speaker. Yeah.
Right, and if enough team members come from that team, you could have kids doing the quick build and kids at other sessions like Mr. Lehman's session first thing in the morning about rookies. So certainly,
Yeah.
the more the merrier.
Exactly.
Well, I know we're looking forward to it. It should be a great day. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Tell them about the description of the workshops.
Oh yeah. So below the schedule, there is actually a description for all of the workshops, also with a quick biography of each of the presenters presenting.
So you can see, and it sort of ties in with what Heather is going to talk about, but this first one that shows up, what is amateur radio and how can it help, was a presenter also from the 2056 Ways to Inspire. So not everybody could get to Stony Creek, not everybody can get to St. Mildred, so it's great to have multiple chances to see some of these presentations.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Some of them would be the same because the presenters can attend both, but there would be some differences as well between the two.
So I've gone back to Sarah and Alex's page because there's a couple things else we want to talk about. We're going to hear a little bit about Team 2056 from Heather shortly, but maybe you can give us a brief history, Sarah, of it's an interesting history of St. Mildred's team, SWAT 771.
Okay, so 771 started 17 years ago. Oh, that's lots of ones and sevens. When just two girls went to our head of school's office and said that they'd heard about this program and they wanted to do it, and could they start it? So it started really with just a couple of girls. They built it in one of the parents' basements and took it off to competition. They called it the Box That Rocks. Was the name of the robot. Well, it was Mildred because all our robots are, but the nickname was the Box That Rocks because it was basically just a defensive robot. Square just got out there and played the game. But they had a lot of fun and they learned so much, and the team just grew from there. So they grew steadily until 2004 or 2007 when they won at a regional with 1114, and that was kind of the peak of the team. And then we sort of faltered a little bit as we tried to make that transition from a smaller team to a larger team, and what did that mean? And there was a change of mentors as well. I came on shortly after that into kind of a rebuild situation, and then the team has been growing and getting stronger. So now we regularly are over 50 members on our team, which, by the way, is a quarter of our senior school. So, so we have a really large turnout. It's really big at the schools, so all the teachers and administrators kind of get it that this is what we're doing. And our goal has been to keep amping our robot skills. I think for us it came a little easier to do the outreach and the chairman's aspect because we felt so passionate about it and we're having so much fun doing it. It was easier for us to get out and talk about it. We have a very small shop, well, shall we say like half a classroom with a couple of drill press, a vise, and a bandsaw. So we have a very small space to build in. So it's been a challenge to amp our robot, and we've really been working on that the past few years. My first year was the first year, which was almost 10 years ago, was the first year the team started programming, like doing the programming all themselves. Up till then, it was mostly mentor programmed with, like a student following along, shall we say. But now our programming team, we have about 10 girls that are really strong on the team. So I'm really proud of that growth of the team.
That's great. You mentioned outreach. I guess the newest chapter of the outreach, Alex was taking the team to China this summer. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So SWAT, along with the other 13 amazing international teams who also attended the 2017 China Robotics Challenge, we were there to help the Chinese rookie teams fine-tune their robot and help them get ready for competition. And I'd have to say one of the biggest memories, and I speak on behalf of all the girls who went, was just being able to help the rookies. And we were able to teach some of the girls how to use power tools. And after that, more and more girls became extremely keen to be a part of the assembly for the robot, and they wanted to contribute more. And many of the girls on the rookie team were not extremely experienced with tools, and by allowing them to have that experience and learning was very rewarding, and we were able to witness their individual growth just when they were using the power tools. And also, while we were in China, we had the opportunity to host a Girls in First workshop for both the Chinese and the international teams. And during the workshop, we were able to inspire multiple girls to step up on their team and encourage them to become more confident in speaking up and expressing their opinions. And on that note, our girls worked extremely hard to promote gender equality throughout the time we were there, and we were extremely honored to be awarded the Inspiration Award at CRC, as well as finishing as finalists.
Well, that sounds great. I also heard a small part of your trip was bringing some First Canada swag. I believe that chip clips are now flooding through China, if I recall, because we now officially have no chip clips left at the warehouse. So
that was they were key, and the pink hats were also very highly prized.
Yes.
So there was some trading going on with the pink hats. So thank you, First Canada, for the swag.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Sarah and Alex, for giving us some information about the SWATposium and, of course, about SWAT. I think we're gonna go over to Heather right now, but hopefully Heather, after she finishes, Sarah, you and Alex can answer any questions that we might get along the way. And there's another question I have for both of you later on. So hopefully you'll stay with us. And that now brings us to Heather Young of Team 2056. I see your microphone is green, Heather, so I hope you're really there.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. Maybe, Heather, you can give us a little short bio of you. Tell us how you started with 2056 and what you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my history with 2056 stems all the way back to 2007 in our rookie year. I was kind of the tag-along little sister at that point. Came out to competitions, did some scouting, was kind of the main cheerleader of the team. And it wasn't until 2010 when I officially joined the team. From there, I got involved with the electrical and mechanical design, and actually joined the drive team in the following year. I became spokesperson in the pit and kind of carried out through the team until I graduated in 2014, and then have come back and mentored ever since. So I've been with the team for 10 years, just in different capacities along the way.
That's great. And I know we only have about 20 minutes to go or so, or 10, 15 minutes to go. So you can't give us everything there is to know about Team 2056, but maybe you can give us a little bit of, for those people that are on the call that may not have experienced them, what 2056 is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. We were, like I said, founded in 2007. We're from Stony Creek. So we just finished our 10th season in first. I guess a little about 2056. We have a great facility at our high school, Orchard Park, which really helps foster the education that comes along with first, and technical aspects, and others as well. We have a lot of industry professionals that we work with, so this is something that helped me along the way, with strong emphasis on problem solving and the hands-on skills in STEM education. Yeah.
Can you tell us how the 2056 Ways to Inspire conference came about?
2056 Ways to Inspire started off actually as a social media campaign, where we provided some support and guidance in the first community through videos and tweets. And then that got a little more in depth when we continued to get questions from people on like, what do you do to be so successful? And we're always looking for ways to help other teams. So we decided to evolve the online platform into more of an on-site conference. People had been asking about visiting our facility, so we wanted to have more of an open house type situation. So that gave us an opportunity to also broaden into different opportunities, including Vex and Lego, and bring in more of our staff and in both the elementary and secondary school levels, and kind of bring the community together in all facets that are FIRST robotics.
Well, it was a great conference. I was there last year and this year and sat in on your session at the back, and was very impressed by what I heard from you and your partner. And that was one of the reasons why I asked Mr. Hunter if you would be willing to do this. So I quite enjoyed it. I learned a lot. Can you tell us what some of the other sessions were? I know one of them was the ham radio, amateur radio operator. We already mentioned that he's also doing this one at the SWATposium, but just a general overview of what some of the sessions were about.
Yeah, we kind of hit on all keys. As SWAT does, want to stem just out of the technical aspects of building a robot. And we had a large focus on robotics in the elementary school age, that being both Lego and Arduino and Vex sessions, as well as sessions to do with team development and just 2056 in general. So sustainability and sustainable practices for a FIRST team, as well as how we raise money and how we apply robotics in the curriculum. And then, of course, we had the ones that relate more to building the robot. So electrical, that included the presentation I did on control systems, as well as the one that we spoke about already tonight. Mechanical, including the design and strategy, and then finally programming. So what we do, programming a 2056 robot. And had a lot of people from all over come in to help us out and do some great presentations.
So your session was on control systems. Why did you choose that one, or did someone say, Heather, I want you to do that?
Control systems is kind of what I've always done with 2056. When I came in on my first year, I shadowed my big brother, actually, who was the electrical design at the time. And continuously followed him around, learning all about electronics in robots. And then I ended up becoming our lead electrical team member as well. So it's something that I've been involved with for multiple years in FIRST, and something that I've grown to become very interested in and know quite well. So that's where I got paired up with that topic.
Well, it was a great session. I really enjoyed it. And of course, it's changed significantly in your time with FIRST, I would assume.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I have trouble keeping up with it as a mentor in these days, with my capacity of 2056 not being quite as heavy as it used to be as a student. And yeah, it's definitely come a very long way.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, and it's great to have you speak. And you spoke so well at the session that I saw. I was very impressed. I think as all the lots of people that were at your session, they seem to have gotten a lot out of it.
Thank you.
The last part, I wanted to ask a couple of questions, since we have three accomplished young ladies here. You too, Sarah. You're in that one as well. And since FIRST in Canada and FIRST in the United States is really starting to put more of an emphasis on equity, diversity, and inclusivity, and this is going to be one of the threads that's going to run through all of these webinars. But I have one question for each of you. For you first, Alex, what advice to boys on FIRST teams on improving teamwork and collaboration with girls could you provide?
In my opinion, respect should be mutual, and boys should interact and collaborate with their female teammates the same way they would with their male teammates and their mentors. The interaction shouldn't be any different just because of gender. And because there's so many stereotypes about each gender in the STEM field, there shouldn't be any assumptions made about any teammates due to their gender and about their ability to contribute to their team in any aspect. And in my opinion, allowing everyone to be able to express their opinion about a situation or issue would be a good place to start.
Oh, that's well said. Now, Sarah, you've been a mentor for many years. and you've dealt with many males. So speaking as a mentor, do you have any tips to improve communication between the genders in a FIRST environment from your experiences?
I think it goes both ways. I think, there's a spectrum in both genders. So I like Alex's comments about you don't know exactly where people are coming from, so giving that space and respect to understand where their strengths and areas of growth are. That's really important. And I would say it goes both ways. Like, I think one of the things that girls or women tend to do is use soft talk, like, I think we should do this, or maybe this is the way to go, or we might try something like that. And I think for ladies and girls, that's our way of softening it and making it feel more collaborative. But I think it can be read as not feeling very confident about that suggestion or not really being sure. So I think as ladies, I'd recommend to step up and just say what you mean. So say, like, this is what we should be doing. Here's our options. I think this is the best option. So try and use that stronger words, because I think then men or males will read that as confidence. They know what they're doing. So I think that's something that ladies can do to help. And then I think for men, my tip would be sometimes you need to be a little patient, give a little more time. Often when females are being slower about a response or an answer, it's not because they don't know, it's because maybe they're trying to think it all the way through before they state it. Often they're really considering safety or different options, trying to make sure they're really sure that that's the right way. So the response can be a little slower. So just giving that extra time for thinking can draw out some really great responses. So it's kind of like the quiet book, thinking about introverts. Sometimes, even though we're not introverts, we can be in a technical situation. So I would recommend just giving that little extra time. And I think the stereotype would be, often men might not want to ask for directions, whereas ladies would. But I think in the robotics world, where we see that is the troubleshooting style can be a little different, and often girls might go for doing some research or thinking it through, or reviewing like pro cons of different approaches, whereas often a more hands-on, like, well, let's just try it, might be another approach. And I think both of those approaches can be useful at the right time. Like, sometimes time constraints means you have to take your best guess and just give it a shot. Mm-hmm. But if you have time to slow down and use that alternate method, can be useful too. So I think for both genders, being open to both styles of troubleshooting is useful too.
That's good advice for sure. And Heather, I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, that you've had STEM experiences in the working world. Is that true?
Yes.
So maybe you can talk about those things as it would apply to someone like Alex, who's obviously going to be in school a little bit longer, but heading out into the working world. What are some of your experiences as that?
Definitely. I guess I've had experiences through robotics school and now professionally. I was one of the first females on my team. So started out there being the female in a male-dominated world, I guess. And then again in university, I was often found myself as one of the only females in the room. And then now, moving on into the professional world, I'm one of 2 female engineers within my company. So I guess throughout my history, I've just taken this on as a challenge and tried my best to be fearless. If I could give any experience to young women in FIRST or in STEM, that would probably be just to take charge of your learning and ask questions, position yourself right in the middle of it and shadow someone. and don't be afraid to jump in and do it yourself. FIRST is a great place to be if you're pursuing an interest in STEM, and you're definitely surrounding yourself with the right people, as the FIRST community shares your aspirations and will encourage you and your curiosity in STEM. So don't be afraid, and stick with it. Take it on as a challenge and persevere.
Well, that's excellent advice from all three. So thank you very much for that. And as I said, this equity, diversity, inclusivity part that we're emphasizing, it should be emphasized, should have been emphasized before now, is going to be a constant thread in all our webinars and all our competitions throughout the year. So thank you all for that. One of the things we said off the top is, since if you don't know me, I'm the one that's selling swag all the time and consequently ordering it. So I have decided that we're going to give out swag prizes at each event that we do, each webinar. And so we're with 2 new pieces of swag that just came out yesterday, and that's a white toque. So that's for not wearing while you're working with greasy hands on the robot. And this new bronze, which we're looking for different colors for hats. And we have pink, and we have camouflage, and we have dark green, and we have black, and now we have this bronze one as well. So you could win one of these items, and we're going to give some away, but you're going to have to do something. So I want some information. So if you email me between now and midnight, and I want an answer to one question, and that question is, what programming languages has your team used, both in the past and currently, and why? And of course, you have to put your name, and you need to put your team number when you send that email, but that's the email address there. Now, that's an easy one. The questions will get harder as we go along, and the swag might get more expensive. So we have lots of stuff. The other thing too, you can send information. If you have a suggestion on something you'd like to see us have at our events, I'd love to hear from that. I'm an old guy and I don't have that many ideas, but that would be good to hear. And one special announcement is that as of next week or next webinar, Studica has agreed to sponsor our Ask the Expert webinars, and Derek Murphy, who works for Studica, will appear occasionally as a guest, and we will also be giving out a prize each webinar from Studica, from some Andy Mark equipment that they sell. As you know, they're the Andy Mark reseller in Ontario, which is new. And then lastly, there will be no webinar on Halloween. So I know Sarah's probably sad about that, but you're going to have to give out candy, Sarah, sorry. And
we did it last year. It was pretty funny. Everybody kept disappearing for the doors.
Yeah, that was, I know I'm going to be having to give out the candy, so I won't be able to do it. So it's partly about me. Well, a lot of it will be about me, but anyways, that's it for now. So next week we'll be next time on November 7th, we'll be joined by someone from SHAD to talk about how the programs link FIRST Canada and SHAD, and about all the students that we've had that have been involved in both. And we will also talk about our new EDI Equity, Diversity, and Inclusivity Initiative, which was started by Shelley Henderson, the Inclusivity Director, Equity Director at FIRST headquarters, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So if you have any questions for one of our speakers, now is the time to ask. Now we have some quiet people this time. Usually we have the same people asking questions, but at this point I don't see any, and I'm going to assume that there are none. But you're also welcome to email me questions, and I will get them to Sarah, Heather. Oh, we got a question. I knew I spoke too long. Okay, so we have a question from Birunta. He would like to know, I would like to know, how did you fundraise money for the first program, or is there other ways to gain money? So I'm going to guess, Sarah, that that's how you fundraise for your team.
We do a couple of different things. So we fundraise, we do some school fundraisers, like we have a Merry Movie Night where we invite younger people to stay after school. We play games, we eat pizza, we watch a movie, and we charge them, and that comes to the team. So we do some school fundraisers. We also do approach sponsors. So we go to sponsors or industry mentors in the team, and request money. We mostly ask if we can give a presentation, because I feel like if we can get in the door to give a presentation, then generally, how can they say no? Right.
Right.
It's that compelling program.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is we reach out to parents and the mentors of the school, and we have a sponsorship package. But what we do is we don't, boldly ask, go home and ask your parents. What we say is we give them a package and say, ask your parents if they know anyone that they should give it to. So sometimes it results in parents donating, but sometimes they'll know somebody that they think would be interested and they'll pass it along.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that I was at 4 schools today, and one was Mary Ward in Scarborough, Team 5596, and they were actually just about to go out to one of the banks with their robot and 4 or 5 kids to make a presentation. So that's a very common thing that teams do. Sometimes when they talk to the teachers at school, it's just like what you said, Sarah. They'll say, maybe it's not you that's going to sponsor, but you may know somebody, you may have a brother or a cousin or a sister who's involved with Google or is a mechanical engineer and wants to give back, as they often do. So, and some companies will, if there's an employee who's mentoring your team, that will also provide funds. So that's one of the big ones. But that obviously fundraising and finding money is always a key one. But thank you for the question. That's good. Now, of course, the rookie teams are all in the middle right now, or finished doing their Argosy Rookie Grant, which is worth $6,000 US. I know just before we started tonight, someone sent me their draft to take a look over before it's due to be handed in on the day before the SWATposium. Everything ties together on November the 3rd, on Friday, November the 3rd. So hopefully that will, I think actually it's Thursday that is due, but those people are doing it, they already know because I've already sent them that information. Oh, here's a good question from Isabel. How can a team get more girls to join?
Does Heather want to take that first?
Sure, yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I guess our way of getting more people involved in general was just getting out into the school and showing the robot off. We would present at pep rallies and just kind of be a part of the school the way that a sports team would. And that sparked a lot of interest in male and female. But I guess another way to get out there and encourage other females to join, if you are a female on the team as well, is to just bring your friends in and get them involved. And it's great to let the other students in the school know too that it's not just about building the robot. So if they're not interested in the mechanical design aspect of being on the team, there's a world of other things that they can get involved with. So I think it's just getting, in terms of our school, it's just getting ourselves out there and kind of getting the school more involved in what we do and getting them to understand what exactly FIRST is to bring more people in.
I think one other idea I would add to that I've heard other schools do is to have a girls only day. So they have a day where they invite girls only to come find out about the team. And so then sometimes they feel less shy to come that day to find out about it. And then, after that they could come to regular team meetings. So I thought that was a pretty good idea too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yes, there are some ideas that are in the EDI, the Equity, Diversity, Inclusivity modules that have come out from FIRST headquarters about how to recruit minorities and how to inside your school, and how to recruit non-traditional groups that may not have that opportunity, and often in a school those might also be girls. So if your mentor or you want to go through those modules, that's great. That'll be part of what we're going to talk about the next time, but certainly there are tips on how to do it in there from teams that have done a good job of that. Our next question has come from Colton, and he wants to know what's the best way to find sponsors. Colton, I'll take this one to start with. There's no best way. Sarah mentioned some of the ways that they go about finding sponsors. Cold calling probably is not the best way. Getting a tip from somebody in your school that they might know somebody. When you do get that tip, is actually emailing or calling is not as good as trying to set up a presentation like Sarah explained. And the kids are the best ways to do that. The best way would be if somehow you could get a potential sponsor to come to an event and see what goes on. It's very difficult for them to say they don't want to be involved when they've seen a competition and the enthusiasm and the skill level of all the students and how they support them, the team members and other team members. But there's no one way. I know the team that I started with, Team 4001, most of the sponsors the first year and first couple of years were people I was related to that wanted to be involved, and that somehow works. I couldn't afford to sponsor my own team, but I knew people are related to people that could. So people know other people. People know people in business that are looking to support STEM education. That's one of the best ways, I think. Sarah, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I would give a couple of tips that I've heard that I thought were good, especially for teams starting out. One of them was a team, I'm sorry, I don't remember all the teams I've talked to at competition, but a team said, maybe you hear yourself in these words, that they went after 100 companies to give $100. So they went, the idea was they would just go into like small companies like their dry cleaner or I don't know, random places, and they would just ask, all we need is $100 because we're asking a lot of small businesses just to give $100. And at the end of that, they had $10,000, which was enough to get them into competition. So they were like, buy a square. They had like a 10 by 10, and they were like, buy a square and we'll put your name on the square. And so I thought that was a really clever idea. And then another idea I heard that I thought was good was people have set up a GoFundMe account, and then they have people, you know, like if you're thinking about making a gift, you know, those aunts and uncles that, you know, if you're going to give me a gift anyways, give to my team. So they would get kids to direct them to, you know, all your friends and relatives or whatever, as well as, you know, putting it on anything you give out. You know, here's your link. So if you're at outreach, that would be a way to, you know, get maybe those small amounts that could add up.
Those are good tips. I hadn't heard that one. I know I always, my kids, what do you want for Christmas or do you want for your birthday? And, you know, there's nothing really I want. So I'm sure I'm not the only one in that situation. That would be a great suggestion. I like it. Yeah. I like that one for sure. I'm writing it down so I don't forget in my advanced years.
Our school did not allow us to do a GoFundMe. I just want to say that. So you might get some school opposition, but I've heard public schools are not as opposed to that.
And that brings up another point, is that all schools, private and school boards, are different. They have different rules. So you always want to run by the ideas by the mentors before you go out and run a casino day somewhere in someone's garage. That to make sure that it's that the board is okay with, or the board of directors or the trustees at your school are okay with what you're planning. So hopefully that gives you some ideas, Colton. And I think on that note, we're going to say goodnight. And once again, thank Heather Young, Sarah Sils, and Alex Hahn, and wish you ladies good luck in your seasons, and look forward to seeing you at events, buying lots of swag. And
Right.
also, I look forward to seeing you at the SWATposium in November. So
Great.
thanks again,
Thank you, Paul.
and good night.